Well, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Productpreneur Success Podcast. Now, I'm recording this episode in mid-March, and in fact, it's Afterpay Day today, to be exact. Not that that really means anything at all in regards to this episode. Other than, I guess, to say that I have noticed that over the last week or so, many e-commerce brands have really been experiencing a little bit of a drop in sales, which might or might not be influenced by customers waiting for Afterpay Day in the hopes that, there'll be a discount available or something along those lines. And, I guess that can happen. But for whatever reason, a lot of business owners have been feeling a little bit fearful lately about their future in their business, and maybe worried a little bit that because of high interest rates and inflation and maybe possibly an economic downturn, that things might not work out in their business, or that their business might fail. And I will, like, when you reflect back on the start of your business. And something that I've noticed is that entrepreneurs, they'll start their business because they have a vision or a goal or something that they're really excited and passionate about. And they might then, will usually, formulate some sort of a plan, or at least have some good ideas about how they're going to achieve that vision or that big goal, and so they'll start implementing some strategies to help them launch and grow. And in the early days, typically we all have a lot of excitement and a lot of energy about our business, right? And it's really super fun and motivating, and we're usually pretty upbeat. But then when challenges come their way, whether they're external challenges like a possible recession, or a pandemic, right? Or internal challenges like maybe a promotion or a product launch just totally bombed, or maybe the manufacturing has been delayed and they've run out of stock, or there's lots of different challenges that happen inside a business, right? But when things get really difficult like this, it's really common to start feeling as though you're not cut out for this. You're not cut out for business, or you can't be successful in business because you're finding it really hard. And these are the moments, I think, that we always notice how well other people seem to be going, right? We're noticing that it seems like other people have found success really easy, which, quick reminder here, most of the time we're noticing this because we're seeing stuff on their Instagram or their social media, and the stuff that these businesses put out publicly. Of course, that's the highlight reel. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But anyway, all of these sorts of worries and fears can really paralyze us. And, we can become very short-term in our thinking, and, start making knee-jerk decisions and things like that. And then, this kind of being paralyzed like this becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because, we're not moving forwards and therefore not achieving any of our goals. So how do we get out of this vicious circle? How do we get past these fears that might be holding us back? And so to help us unpack this topic today and really offer us some practical tips and strategies, I've invited my high performance mindset coach, Ben Elliott, back onto the show. And so, it's going to be a fantastic conversation. I know you're going to love to hear his nuggets of wisdom today. So without further ado, let's welcome Ben onto the show. Welcome back to the show, Ben. Always good to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. I think this is time number 3.
I reckon
doing something right.
Yeah, I think it might be. But it's been a little while, and I think it's time, and really try and bring a few practical resources to people around mindset that might help people through what is being, it's proving to be a little bit of a tough time for some people. I actually just wanted to quickly open up today. Over the long weekend, we had our state swimming championships, and of course my boys were racing, all about them. And, they've been working so bloody hard all, for a whole year towards this event. And, it's like, I don't know, 10 sessions a week. It's ridiculous what they're doing, but they didn't taper for this event. So for anyone who doesn't know about, these sorts of sporting meets, like normally you'd have a little bit of rest after all the hard work so that you got some energy. But the plan is to rest for the nationals, which is coming up. So consequently, they didn't perform as well as they expected. They're not getting the results yet from all of that hard work. And so really kind of containing the emotion in the house of feeling like they're not, getting the results, they're not, achieving their goals and all of that kind of stuff, and trying to keep them confident, and all of that has been really hard. I've been trying to channel my inner Ben.
You just need to get them to listen to this episode afterwards, I reckon. Yeah, just pick themselves back up again. Next time you drive them or something like that, you can just play this in the background.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So, we were going to talk about self-belief for success. And, like I said before, I think there's just a lot of people feeling a little bit wobbly right now, worried about the economy and how that's going to impact business. I'm personally not overly worried because I've been through this before in business, but I don't know. Can I just ask you, from your experience, like, what are the sorts of things and behaviors that start to happen when people really start to, get the fear factor into business?
Yeah, I'm like you. I've been coaching and doing my business for 14 years, I think now, 14, 15 years. So I've seen different economic cycles, and it's just normal news and drama, but actually in the tactics and the practicalities don't really change much. And to be honest, like these kind of hardships and all the media, it actually is like a huge advantage for people in business because we have more opportunity, but I won't go into that. But yeah, but when it comes to these kind of hardships, people will really start to focus on the external, and they take their eye off of the ball, which is what they can control and what they should be focusing on. So the biggest mindset I see is the more people focus on the negativity, the news, the worst case scenarios, they fall into this victim mindset where they go, oh, there's nothing I can do about it. Or if this thing happens and a recession comes or interest rates keep going up, it's just the way it is. There's nothing I can do about it. As soon as they fall into that victim mindset, they become almost, paralyzed because their brain thinks, hey, there's nothing I can do about it anyway, so why try? And then they become negative and moan. And then when a problem comes up, because business has challenges all the time. So when a challenge comes up, their brain is not focused on solving the challenge. Their brain is like, oh, well, of course it wasn't going to work. So then they just accept the problem versus overcome the problem. So there's a lot more fear. There's a lot more worry. There's a lot more procrastination. There's a lot more distraction because, their brains are scattered everywhere. And that victim mentality is really a killer.
Yeah, absolutely. And perhaps an element of, I can't possibly have success because of all of this going on.
Yeah. It's funny how you got to remember, like the way our brains work is we're always playing a story in our head.
Yeah.
And most of the time we're choosing the story, like we're having positive self-talk, we're focusing on the task or whatever. But as soon as we start focusing on the externals, like the economy and what could happen if and all of that, and then we allow the media's self-talk and their story to get into our head, that's when we really get, in that there's no point, I can't do it, I can't achieve it, because we start having a different narrative in our head where things are harder. Are they harder or are they not? Well, they're harder if you make them harder. And if you just continue to focus on the business plan and keep executing, keep growing, and keep doing what you need to do, you're going to get where you need to be. You know what I mean? But it's that narrative where you can talk yourself out of something like success or like productivity or like anything else, just because you got the wrong story playing through your head.
Yeah. And I reckon I've heard you talk about how it can be also a problem when you're relying on external factors to confirm success as well.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story. So I've got clients in 14 countries now. So we're Zooming, and I've got a client in Canada. And again, they're like, in the middle of all this drama with the US and all these other kind of things and all of that. But we're coaching him and we're talking about, okay, what's going on for you? And again, the temptation is to focus on, oh, I need a better strategy or a new solution or a silver bullet to fix everything. And it's like, well, you probably don't, because you're pretty smart and you've got good systems in place. So what's the real problem here? And it came down to he was getting in his own way because he had a lot of self-doubt. And his self-doubt was coming because he was making decisions, but he was reliant on how people responded to that decision. So when he made a decision for the team, if his team had a negative reaction or they doubted it, he would then doubt because he was looking for that confirmation from other people to say, yes, this is right. Then he feels like, okay, now I'm successful. Now I'm on the right track. And the problem with that is when you're looking at the externals evidence to try and get you, feeling successful and know you're on the right track, you're basically going to be up and down like a roller coaster. If you have, a right mentor or someone like that, they might pump you up, but you're always going to have those circumstances, and your brain will just look for whatever is the most dramatic at the time. So if the most dramatic is the negativity, that's what you're focused on. And then you'll compare yourself versus the drama, and it just becomes super toxic. So yeah, I think that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Stories are always good. I was also reflecting back. I don't think it was that long ago, and you asked me, do I feel successful? And I was very immediate in saying yes, but this has taken a few years to get to that point. But years ago, I remember I reckon it was a book or a podcast or something that I read or listened to, and it was really talking about how, like, when you're starting out on some new project, whether it's a business or something or other else, we have all of these ideas, we have all of these strategies and plans, and we start and we're super enthusiastic and motivated, and everything feels possible. And then, of course, the hard work starts and the challenges come in, and then suddenly you start to think, like, maybe I'm not cut out for this because this is hard and everybody else makes it look easy.
Yeah. It's you might be that might not be a book. It might be one of my trainings that I did for your team.
Quite possibly.
Because it sounds an awful lot like my psychology of success thing. Yeah. So yeah, what will happen with people, right? If you think about this, it's with any goal in life. It's not just business, it's health, it's everything. But at the very start, people are super excited because everything's new. So they get the emotional buzz of, this is new, this is exciting, I can see the goal, I can see the vision. And because you have so much positive excitement, emotion, you actually have a little bit more belief in that time, because you're just running on an emotional high. But the reality is that emotional high, it's a really high level of emotion, and it can't be maintained for years.
No.
Imagine being excited 24/7, you would just burn out. This wouldn't happen. But we have that excitement and that buzz. And because we feel so good, we just almost have these rose-colored glasses for the whole journey. Oh, because I feel this good, then it's all going to be smooth. But, it happens with every single business, every single person. You're trying to achieve a goal, and the fact that you haven't achieved it before means it's not quite in your comfort zone yet. So there is going to be some growth for yourself, and there is going to be some growth with your business and the systems and your team. So, it's just a part of it. So there will be a point where you hit that first brick wall, or that first challenge, or that first setback, or that first, oh my God, I thought this would be easy, but it's actually really uncomfortable. I have to jump on and do a video for social media, and I hate the way I sound or the way I look on camera, and you just have to get over it. But it's in those kind of moments that's the point where people's doubts really kick in. Because now it's no longer emotional. It's not an emotional high. It's not romantic. We're out of the honeymoon phase, and now we're in the growth. Now we're in the growth phase. So at that point there, the rose-colored glasses come off, and this is where a lot of the self-doubt comes in. And that's when they're looking for, okay, so I need external support, or I need, external people to, praise me and pump me up or whatever. But at that point there, an external solution is not really the key. You don't need the economy to change for you to be successful. You don't need Facebook's algorithms to change in order for your ads to start working. It's an internal game at that point. And the internal game is you need to have the self-belief and develop the self-belief, because that's what's going to move you forward.
Yeah, I think for me, if I try and remember back to when I first got to know you, it was that I don't have enough time, because I'm trying to do all of this at that point in time, it was within school hours because my kids, were younger. And so, I kind of had to get past that hurdle of believing that I didn't have enough time or other resources probably to try and achieve what I needed to do. So how do we try and move away then from that, needing the external validation to pump us up?
Yeah, well, the first thing is you got to recognize that's the real problem. Most people, when they face a challenge, they blame the external, and they think, hey, if this problem wasn't here, if I had more time, then everything would be easy. And that's the lie that they believe. And that's what keeps them bound, because then instead of working on their confidence like they should, they then just complain about things, or they try and find a new solution. They do a new course or a new book or a new whatever, and they don't actually get new silver bullet, right? So so that's the thing, is the way I say it to my clients is, the problem is not the problem. The external thing that you're blaming, whether it's economy or interest rates or whatever, it might be a problem, but it's not the real problem. The real problem is your response to this. So if you focus on the real problem, which is how am I responding to these challenges, that's where you're going to actually get the, the clarity to start working on it, and then the work will stick. So that's the first thing. You're recognizing that the internal thing is going to actually make the result. So in terms of that, if you think about it, when people go to school, people have jobs, they have a lot of external support, teachers and things like that, bosses telling them what to do. And if something goes wrong, there's someone to catch them. But in business, we don't really have that. So we have to go learn to get everything from an internal place. So the way I do it with people, and as you know, I make them do this really annoying exercise where I make them spend time with a glass of wine or a coffee, but in their own time, and they have to write out their 50 internal resources. So a resource, the way I define it, is like one of your strengths or one of the things that you have. When you're focused on the problem, when you're focused on the external stuff and the negativities, your mind is focusing more on what you don't have. Don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. But your brain stops focusing on what will actually give you confidence, which is what you do have. And if you focus too much on what you don't have, you become almost blind to the skills, the experience, the qualities, the resources that you really need to tap into there. So the first step is getting everyone, and if you're listening to this, you should definitely do it. 50 is the number, because you have to rack your brain, and it forces you to really look.
It's hard to get to 50.
It's very uncomfortable. It's very, the first time I created the list of 50 for myself, because I was going through a breakthrough, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to sit here until I find 50 good things about myself and 50 good things that I have to offer. And it sucked, but it becomes easier. And all you're doing is you're noticing what's already there. So with the resources, you're looking at what skills you have, what talents you have, what strengths do you have. Why are your customers lucky to interact with your brand? Why are you a blessing, or whatever it may be. But those skills, those experiences, those resources. So the first step is identifying them, because we want your confidence to come from basically that list.
The evidence. Yeah. Got to give out
the evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise you're looking in the mirror and saying, I'm confident, I'm a go-getter. And then your brain's like,
no, you're not.
Yeah, right. You're just lying to yourself in front of the mirror and looking like an idiot. So you need to have that evidence list. That's the first step. But then the second part is you got to learn to trust that list and rely on it. So you go through a challenge, and that's why you got to have that list handy. It's on your phone, it's on your iPad, it's printed off on your desk. You go through a challenge, and most people, their way of dealing with stress is basically a really bad coping mechanism called avoidance, which is also procrastination, or I'll do it later, or I'll close my eyes, pretend it's not there. So that's a really bad coping mechanism.
Head in the sand somehow.
Totally. The other bad coping mechanism is worry, because if people worry, it's actually a bad coping mechanism.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so that's why people worry, right? Because their brain, when you think about what worry does, it makes you hyper alert, makes you hyper focused, and it makes you into a little level of fight, flight, freeze, or flee, right?
Yeah.
So when you're worrying, it's your brain trying to get a solution, trying to get an answer, and it's making you hyper aware of the challenge. But it's a really bad way of coping with the stress, because you don't take any action, because you're overthinking. Yeah, you're stressing yourself out, so you're not sleeping. You're like your boys. They didn't have no rest, no recovery, and then they're trying to perform, and then they just don't have the same oomph. No. And then they don't perform, and then they beat themselves up, and it's this vicious circle. Yeah. And so the worrying is a really bad way of dealing with stress. So yeah, pretty bad. So what we want to have instead is, when the triggers come, the stresses come, you pull out that list, and it's almost like you're looking at your inventory. This is my inventory of all my resources, all my abilities. I'm really good at critical thinking, problem solving. I'm good at marketing. I'm really good at learning. So I can just jump onto Catherine's program, watch more of her videos, and I can learn quickly, and I can rely on that, So whatever your resource is, you want to then start to choose a resource from that list, and then try and bring that to the stressor. I'm going to use this to try and solve this problem, or to move forward. And every time you do that, you're actually getting more evidence that you're capable, more evidence that you can do it. And you become rock solid. You get criticism from people, you can get bad, Facebook changes to their algorithms and all sorts of stuff. You can worry about this AI thing taking over your opportunities, whatever it may be. And then it doesn't really matter, because you're just looking back at that list of resources, and then you're actioning it. Yeah. So,
yeah, so good, and very practical. It will definitely be a challenge for everyone the first time they do it, but Maybe the wine might help more than the coffee in that regard.
Yeah. Well, it just comes down to like most people, they're not like reflective on those types of traits about them. And you have to look. And it needs to be 50 because you need to train your brain to get out of looking at all the negatives about you and all your shortcomings. And you need to train your brain to go, what else is there that I have? What else is a skill? What else is a resource? And it just takes time. So it's
It
like a
does.
gym session for your brain.
It is a gym. Yeah, you're right. I can thank you for helping me to adopt some good habits there, and working on this every day. Doesn't mean that I don't struggle sometimes. Of course I do, but it's definitely a lot less than a few years ago. That's for sure.
Yeah. The issue is not having bad emotions or being like struggling. The issue is being stuck for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with this, like it's one thing to have a bit of a wobble, but if you fall over after wobbling, that's when it's bad, because then you have to pick yourself up again, then you have to start again, and then you have, whereas if you have the negative experience, you beat yourself up, you make a mistake, something didn't go well, you can just learn from it, and then you can just move forward faster. And that's the whole point of this mindset stuff, that you can continue to take the right actions, back yourself, have good mental health, good balance in your life while still being productive and efficient. So
yeah. I think I wrote when arranging this podcast with you that quite a few of my audience would probably identify as type A perfectionists. I like to joke that I'm the recovering version of that. But they do often feel like they can't have that, the success they want because they can see the imperfections in what they've got right now in front of them. And the goal and the vision just feels so far away and so intangible, and all of these imperfections kind of standing in the way. So I don't know whether that, I mean, do you call that kind of thing imposter syndrome, or I don't really know specifically, but how do you help people like that to get past that?
I'll share two things. I'll share one on imposter syndrome, but first I'll share this thing on this perfection mindset, right? So because I've been coaching like for 14 years, all I do is talk to people one-on-one and talk to groups. And I'm talking about headspace stuff. And I've seen everything before. And you start to notice these patterns with different, every person thinks they're different, and they are to an extent, but business problems are all similar kind of things. And the mindset behind it is all very similar. So, you're not alone if you're feeling pretty stuck right now. But the how was I going to go with it? What we're talking about, imposter syndrome and the perfection thing. Yeah, the perfection mindset. So what I've noticed is when people have a really big goal, because the vision is big and the goal is big, anytime people see something is really big and really important, especially if it's really important or they really need the money or something like that, they see it as really big. People's brains do this weird thing where the more important it is, the bigger it is in their head. And they think they need to be more perfect to achieve that. Whereas if it was just something small, like I just got to, kick this one key performance action by the end of the month and it's no big deal, people don't usually overthink that and make it so perfect. And I think it's this thing where because it's so big and it's so important for them, they think it has to be way more complex to achieve it. And that's the mindset that gets in the way. So then all of a sudden they're like doing their ads and they're doing their video and they're editing the junk out of their video because they said too many times. No one's noticing it, but they just have that perfection. It has to be better because they think it needs to be such a high standard to get a big result. But the reality is it's just doing the simple things, 80% well. And then the next time doing it better, and the next time doing it better. And then that's what's going to create the momentum. So I would say the first thing is, don't make this thing bigger than what it needs to be. Just realize you can keep it simple. When it comes to the imposter syndrome, the way I define imposter syndrome is people, when they think about getting the result they want, they basically think that I couldn't do it. There's no way I could do it. Right? I wouldn't be, I'm not that kind of person who can achieve something like that. It's not that they're consciously thinking this. It's just like a nagging feeling in the back of their head. I could never do that. Or, yeah, okay, I want that goal, but now the excitement's left. I don't know if it's possible. The other part of imposter syndrome is when they do achieve it, but then they go, oh, I flipped it. It was luck.
Yeah.
It was you know why? Because if you really knew that I'm just a this or just a that or not that good at this stuff, then, and then they worry that everything's going to fall apart, everything's going to fall down. They get found out by their clients. They get found out, oh my God, I'm not as big as a brand as I'm pretending to be, or whatever.
Yeah.
So that kind of imposter, and what that really comes down to, I believe in all my studies with people and checking this stuff out, it's really a self-image thing, because they don't see themselves as the person who can achieve that big goal.
Yeah.
Right. The biggest thing that I see is, maybe for people in this space, they might be a mum, but they only see themselves really as a mum. I'm just a mum, or I'm just little old me, little old brand here.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden, to try and achieve something different, they still only see themselves as little old me and not as a business leader or as a business owner, or, they're not switching those hats. So because of that, again, if you see yourself a certain way, you're going to try and live up to that. And then if you do achieve some results, it's luck, because I'm just little old me.
Yeah.
I'm not a business leader. I'm not a marketer. I'm not an entrepreneur. You know what I mean? And then it's one thing to say you are, but you actually have to see yourself in that light,
Gosh, there's a lot to unpack in that, isn't there?
Yeah, sorry, I did the thing where I get excited and just talk too much. So
No,
you can see, not a perfectionist over here. So
what's just one thing that people could do to try and get on the right track with that then? Because it's so common. Like, I think with my audience, that would just be almost universal.
Yeah. Well, you need to spend some time like actually conceptualizing your self-image, because people by default will have a self-image based on how people are treated in their whole life, or based on whatever role they've played. So if you've played the role of corporate worker for 10, 15 years, and now you try and do a business, because you've been in that role for so long, you'll still see yourself as a corporate worker, and you'll work like a corporate worker. Instead of working strategically, you'll work grinding and do things and have meetings that don't matter, because that's just what you've always done. And that's the role that you've been playing. And until you actually stop yourself and reset your thinking, then it's going to keep going. So the mindset is, okay, so in terms of my business, I need to see myself in a new way. It is really about sitting down and beginning to visualize a new way to see yourself. So if you see yourself as little old me, and in your head, that image might be represented by you're slumped over, or you're shy, or you know what I mean, whatever it may be, you're seeing yourself in your home and you're just small time in your own head. Instead, you would go, okay, I want to see myself as a business owner or a leader. So what does a confident business owner look like? What is their posture like? What are they wearing? How do they hold themselves? And you need to begin to conceptualize what that looks like. Right? And then you have to be able to see that more and more. Yeah, posture changes. But it is about like seeing yourself that way first, because what we need to do is we need your brain that when it comes to this big goal, you actually see yourself as the kind of person who can get to that level and who can achieve that. When you do get the results, of course I get the results. I'm a business person. Of course I get the results. I'm someone who's committed, and I'm entrepreneurial, and I have drive, and I have gifts, and I have talents, and I have a big list of 50. So it's really about conceptualizing in your mind. When I had to do this for me, I went from a basketball player. So that was my whole self-image. Now, when I wanted to stop playing basketball and focus on business, there was a big identity crisis there, because I was just the athlete. And I had to change that. And then when it came into the first image I had of myself, it was almost overcompensating. I was 21 years old, and I was working with CEOs, and they'd come in and see me, and they'd be shocked that who's this young kid? I looked young, even younger when I had no facial hair. So at 21, and so I had, in my mind, I was creating an image in my head of like super confident and super switched on. But even over time, that was kind of like the wrong image, and I just had to reset it. Seeing myself, my personality, really good at what I do, successful leader, authority in the space, and that self-image then just naturally shows up.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, yeah, it does. I want to move to one more area that we've talked about a lot, and I know you've talked about it a lot with some of my clients, and that is the whole, I'm going to be happy when I've achieved XYZ, because that does keep people fairly miserable.
Yeah, the happy wins, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah, the happy wins. Yeah. So this again comes back down to that kind of gap focused mentality though.
Yes.
I want to be somewhere, and I'm focused on the gap between getting there, and you're not allowing yourself to really celebrate because there's still such a big gap in the ahead there. And yeah, it's a really toxic one. The challenge is with it, it comes back down to that story, like I need this problem to go, so I'll relax when all this is out the way, or I'll be happy when I finally get to that level. But as a business owner and as an entrepreneur, the goalpost will constantly be shifting. There'll be a vision for your life and a big goal that you have, and that might stay still, financial independence, or sell the business, or sell the brand, whatever. So that will be there, but that might be 5 years away. That might be 10 years away. That might be longer away. So along the way, though, we set a goal, we achieve it, but by the time we've achieved it, we've already set the next goal. So when do we feel good?
Yeah, the horizon keeps moving, doesn't it?
All the time. So when do you actually get a chance to feel good? It doesn't really happen. So that whole mindset of I'll be happy when, it just basically means that you're always trying to be miserable. You're always miserable trying to work. That means you're unproductive and everything else. It's just super toxic. So you have to realize, if you have this mindset, the long game is what's going to matter. If you're focused on the gap, you'll be more stressed, more worried. That means you'll rush and you'll make rush decisions. You won't build a business that will be good in 5 years' time. You'll be trying to get through the month and solve things as fast as you can. And you'll shortcut strategies in order just to solve some now pressure and some now issues. Whereas if you realize, okay, success is going to happen consistently on an upward slope, upward curve over the next 5 to 10 years, you have to learn to enjoy the journey, because if you don't, you're going to waste everything. There's a really sad story of someone I met. They were in their 50s when I started coaching them. And he had the mindset of I'll be happy when, and he was at that point when he should have been happy. He had millions of dollars in profit.
Yeah.
Like he was like, he goes, all those years I was stressed, and I thought if I ever get to this amount of money, then I'll be happy and I can finally relax and just enjoy life. And he goes, now I'm here and there's no good feeling to greet me.
Oh no.
And I had to say, well, think about this, right? Like you pushed yourself without any enjoyment for 10, 15 years or whatever it may be. And not once did your brain learn how to be happy. And your brain has kind of forgotten how to be happy.
No,
and
that's so sad.
Yeah, it was. We had to literally, from absolute scratch, had to retrain his brain. I'm like, I need you to watch funny YouTube clips, because we need to actually get serotonin back in your brain. Wow. We actually need to, like, from actually scratch, learn how to switch on your emotions again. And you know what I mean? Now we have to also help you rebuild your relationship with your kids that you not rejected, but ignored for X amount of years while you were trying to achieve this thing. Yeah. And then you have those other people where you give them this hard message and they say, okay, I'm going to work on it. And one client in particular, he came into when I had the office in Fullerton Road. He came into the office one day and he just looked shocked. And I'm like, Tristan, you all right? What's going on, man? And he's like, oh, we just had our quarterly review and we just made more profit than we've ever made. And I went, okay, why is that so shocking though? I thought that was the plan. And he's like, well, I felt the calmest I've ever felt before. And I thought because I felt so relaxed, I dropped the ball, but we actually made more money. I went, yeah, you probably worked just as much as you always do, but you actually enjoyed yourself and had fun.
Yeah, right.
So it didn't feel like a slog, and then you're more productive, more efficient, more effective. But yeah, enjoying the journey is like a superpower. And you just have to, it has to be a part of your arsenal. You just have to learn how to get a buzz out of what you do. Some things will suck. Some things are always going to be a grind if you don't like them, but there's got to be some things in the business every week that you get a buzz from doing.
Yeah.
You got to find that buzz.
I suspect that that's definitely easier for a lot of business owners when they start out, because they start a business around something that they love. But something I've noticed a lot lately is that, you know, sales have been a little bit inconsistent and, you know, down as well as up. But the down times, you know, that's when the stress and the worry comes in, and the short-term knee-jerk reaction, like I'm just going to send out more discounts and do this, that, and the other. And you know, the belief starts to settle back in that I'm not successful because I'm not making enough money. So it's just this vicious cycle that they end up in. It's really hard for a lot of people to get past.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that comes down to, again, like, there are ways to overcome this stuff, but I find the biggest block is that people, they go, yeah, I've got to work on the mindset, but they don't realize it is that important. It is that important. Like if you go, yeah, I've got to work on my mindset, but it's almost like, yeah, because then I'll be happier, which is important, but they still think their success is going to come from the external stuff. You really just got to make that switch. You got to realize that if you change your inner game, your confidence, your clarity of mind, your ability to switch on and then switch off from work, all of that stuff there is going to be absolute superpower for you to be successful. It's just how it is. And that's going to be the key. Get that through your mind, and then you'll be on the right track from there. Not that I'm talking to anyone in particular, because I can't see your faces, but someone probably feels like I'm talking to them.
I know that lots of people will feel like you're talking directly to them, but I know you've also told me all of these things over the years, and I can get, vouch for the fact that it's helped enormously. So Ben, you have some amazing resources, and some resources that you've packaged together in ways that you didn't used to have. And so I wanted to invite you to kind of talk a little bit about what you do and how you can help people more than on a podcast with me.
Yeah. So, this is not going to sound very salesy, but it's just more transparent and truthful. I've got a free option, I've got a cheap option, and then I've got an expensive option. So the free option is still amazing, and that's my podcast, just like your podcast is amazing. So I've got my podcast, which is High Performance Unlocked with Ben Elliott. So that's a great option. There's worksheets on my website for that as well, so that way you can follow along with it. The cheaper option is still super powerful, but it's just these mindset programs. So for years, I'd be doing sessions with people, and I'm like, okay, cool. We can talk about it all day, but we actually need your brain to be rewired and retrained. So we need to get your eyes closed, get yourself into that zone, and actually retrain your brain for confidence, for self-belief, for positivity, to stay calm in the face of challenges. So after working with so many people, I'm like, man, the triggers are the same for high performers. So I've created these MP3 programs on different topics, and they're on the website. But there's, topics of self-belief, success, and confidence, everything else that you'll need. And all people are doing is they're listening to them as they're falling asleep at night, and it's like doing a workout for their brain. And when people actually do them over the course of a month, they do notice those shifts, because they have a new story in their head, one of confidence. They actually have the same thinking patterns that a confident person in business has. They start to adopt that same mindset, and because of that, they start to feel the same way and take the same action. So there's that one. And then the last option is my coaching option. So I've got a coaching program as well. So for that, there's an application on the website and everything else. So
And do you want to share the website? We'll obviously link it from the show as well.
Yeah, just go to benelliott.me.
It's easy.
Yeah, just make sure you put 2 T's for Elliott. Otherwise, you might go to some other ones. Right. Some other website. Yeah.
Forget that extra T sometimes.
Yeah, benelliott.me.
Yeah, super, super helpful. You were just saying something before about just real quick about the MP3s and how it helps you to rewire your brain and kind of start adopting these they're kind of behaviors as well as mindsets, right? And it just really triggered the thought, which I don't know whether it's a good one to end on, but our outcomes come because we change our actions, and the actions are only going to come because we've thought something before that. So this is where your mindset trainings really have that practical result outcome.
Yeah, definitely. I'll quickly just unpack that just very quickly, but I have these 3 circles. After like 14 years of trying to dig into it, I'll just put it down to 3 circles to make everything clear. But you got the circle on the one end, which is your goals. So you want to be really clear on your goals, your vision, what you want, and your values. Then you want to have the actions to be able to achieve those goals, because your goals are going to be achieved because you take the right actions consistently and you do them well enough. And there's a lot of good resources on that. People, you can learn books and different actions to take and strategies or whatever, but it's the last circle, which is that mindset circle, 70,000 to 90,000 thoughts a day. And if you're trying to take action with worry, self-doubt, negativity, imposter syndrome, you're definitely not going to do those actions very well or very consistently. You're going to get in your own way.
Or probably the right ones.
Yeah, that's it. And that's the thing. And a lot of the time, people don't know the actions to take because they're so stressed. They become scattered, confused. They look for the shiny objects. So the mindset is such a massive key to get that clarity and to be able to take those actions that you need to, but with confidence, with belief. If you do get knocked down, which is going to happen, then it's that the mindset is what gets you back up again, learns from the challenge, and then you let it go and you move on. And then that's the process of it. But it's the mindset piece that most people ignore. But I think, I'm a mindset coach, so maybe I'm biased, but it's the biggest needle mover in my mind. So
Well, I feel like it's been the biggest needle mover for me. Interestingly, with my two boys, with their swimming, they're like a year apart, so listeners may not know that, but one of them has been working on a bunch of this stuff. Like he's been really quite interested, and this is the younger one actually, and the older one, kind of that personality, you know, when you just meet some kids or some people where things just seem to come easily for them. They don't have to necessarily try too hard. Like he has to try hard in the pool, obviously, but he's always, most things have come easily to him. But right now it's not easy for him, and he hasn't developed these internal belief systems and mindsets to actually help him through this difficult time. So that's his next step. And yeah, it's quite fascinating just to watch the two of them and the difference. Yeah.
If you got a big goal, at some point you got to learn it. That's just how it is, you know. The only way you don't have to learn personal development stuff and mindset stuff is you just want a mediocre life. And if you want that, it's totally fine.
Yeah.
But if you have a big goal, as I said, your goal is not in your current comfort zone.
No.
So that means that you need to grow, you need to develop, you need to upskill. It's a part of the journey. Yes. So it's just how it is, you know.
Yeah. So good. Thank you so much for jumping on and sharing some of your nuggets of wisdom with us.
No worries. Thanks for having me on again.
Always appreciate it.